Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let me just go ahead and post this to Twitter. Everybody know we're getting started here. So yeah, just hope everybody had a great weekend. Daylight savings day today is awesome. Get an extra hour of sleep. It's one of my favorite days of the year. But anyway, yeah, just kind of want to get started here. Let's start out with FLIR, FLIR systems. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's a triple inside day. This one had a pretty sizable gap down on an earnings miss. So it was already under when this happened. It was already under the 200-day. Gave a big gap down here and then just continued to go. So this actually probably would have been, what was this, 1, 2, 3 days ago on the 30th. Let's see how that would have looked on the 15-minute. So I'm talking a lot of these days about the ORBs. It's just because I'm noticing that these are great. Great opportunities, to capitalize on. Let me go back a couple days here. When you have like decent gappers, what was that, 4 days ago? Sorry, yeah, 30, yeah, 15. And so anyway, when you get a big move on a day, for news or for earnings or for even an upgrade, like a sizable upgrade or downgrade. I mean, I went through, and I could show it to you later, but the upgrade downgrade list from thefly.com, that basically all the upgrades would have worked and all the downgrades would have worked off of the 15-minute ORB. So ORB standing for opening range breakout, right? So here's FLIR when it had its earnings. So it gapped down here, right? And it was a gap and go, right? But even if you miss that, the low here was 47.09, right? And it eventually, here hit 45.66. So about $1.50 right there, just over the course of an hour, right? Got a little hairy here, but as long as you use your view app as a guide, like here would have been a good place. You wouldn't want to have been there, right? Because it went over the view app and you're good. But trim and trail your profits, take profits here, have a stop there, grab some more profits here, and this would have come back up and stopped out a little bit. So maybe you would have made a full point on that one. So that just kind of shows you. But anyway, basically after gapping down, right, it's kind of consolidated here. And so it'll be interesting to see what it does. So looking at the, which one was that? Big button, still need that. All right, futures right now, point down. VIX, up, or the futures are down, VIX is up. The futures, so we'll see. We might have a gap down tomorrow, which would be interesting. But here's your triple inside day on FLIR. I get some volume, 1 million, 2 million shares. This was 3 million, so on the big gap down day. So it's put an inside hammer. Sometimes these inside red hammers can be, can shake some people out, and then might go higher. Might even try to fill, some more of this range here. This is a stock I don't really trade very much. You can see it trades pretty thinly most of the time, and the volume's kind of trimming off. But it's definitely one to watch because it's putting in a triangle right here. So if it breaks to the upside, could get some upside movement. Breaks to the downside, could continue and possibly test those, the 45. So we'll see. If it gaps down tomorrow, I wouldn't chase it, but I would see if the market looks like it's going to turn around. I'd look to trade it to reclaim the range. Or at least half of the range. So you could make, 50, 60 points, or 50, 60 cents on that one. So half a point, something like that. Yep. Let's see, Javier mentioned Verizon. I thought this is a interesting one just because of the way it closed. It had a pretty decent earnings gap up, already filled the gap here, and then went inside day, right? So inside days are not as powerful as a double inside day, but they still... odds are it's going to break to the upside or downside at one point, right? So, because since they're so rare, it's going to give you, a movement, a break to the upside or the downside. So the ways to play this is if we gap up, right? You don't chase the gap, right? But you see if it tests the downside. If it fails the downside, you can make a couple, a few cents, to the upside. Or if it gaps down, look if it comes up, market's weak, you can take it to the downside, or you can try to reclaim the range, right, to the upside. And of course, the other possibility is it opens somewhere inside the range, at which point you go a little bit deeper inside and you see what it does around the VWAP, right? What I like, Javier pointed out too, is on the 60s, right? You have a double inside 60. And so here gives you something to look at the open. So if we open somewhere in the middle, you can use this 60, this inside 60 as an anchor to see where we are. So if we gap down, right, a little bit below there, you can see how it handles this bar, right? And keep in mind the VWAP's kind of right in the middle right now. So if it comes up and fails to break that VWAP up, then that break of the VWAP back down, could be your entry short with a stop right up here, or a stop over the, one of the mother bars here. It's only a 30-cent range on this one, plus a few more cents up there. So it's a pretty safe trade in terms of risk, with some pretty good reward, right? Because if that breaks to the downside, where's it going to go? It's going to go to the, the high and low, the potential high and low, the prior day's high or low. For some reason my desktop got, my platform got all screwed up, so I lost my high-low thing. Let me add that right now while we're here. Studies. I don't know what happened to that in the hourly. Daily high-low. Add that back in. Apply. Slows it down a little bit because it does some calculation. Anyway, here we go. So that shows, it gives me a good look at when I'm looking at the hourlies. You can do this on any time frame. And I just customized mine to show green for the prior day's high and red for the prior day's low. So you can see here, obviously, this day here was inside. So this is what I'm working with. So if it comes to the downside, your first target here is the low of the day, then next target here, and then, then you can go further. But again, once you're green, move your stop to profit, and then, just go from there and look for the next one, basically. So if it works, great. Keep trimming, trailing, and keep banking profit, right? Preserve profits. That's key. The next one I want to look at real quick. Okay, so I got through Verizon, Fleur, triple inside day. So I'm going to go with ones that I think that might have some potential on the long side. So Starbucks, this is another one. It's kind of an example of the 15-minute ORB. You can see here it gapped up, good earnings, right? Even though the market was, everything else was kind of weak the other day. On Friday, Starbucks was good. You could have waited 15 minutes and then just entered long here at the high of this bar at 64.73, and look at that, almost a point after less than 30 minutes after that. So bank your point after it breaks the top, hold your profit, bank, trim and trail, easy point there. And don't let it go against you. You know what I mean? You could have a stop here, just as a hard stop. Of course, the range of this bar is a 283, so it's pretty big depending on your size. It's not a huge risk reward. It's actually, or inverse risk reward. But as long as it breaks the upside and you start making profit, just move your stop up there, and bank, right? But yeah, it was good for a point. I would like to run through the upgrades downwards just so you could see that. But anyway, I'm looking, so day one of a big move, you look at the 15-minute. Day two, you look at the 30-minute, right? So I'm going to see what it does on the 30-minute. If it's weak, I'll short it, right, to see, because there's a gap to fill. If it's strong, we'll look to get some follow through to the upside. AMD, my favorite thing about AMD was the how it closed on Friday. Where'd it go? I like trading AMD at the open. So anyway, put a nice inside bar here. So it's definitely one to look at. It's only 14 cents. Now, next time, if I trade this, if it somehow handles this range and goes down, I would put a stop over the mother bar instead of this one. You have too high a probability of getting stopped out on on such a small move like that. So the stop, instead of at 31, would be at 38, say. That was the 38. So just add another 7 cents to it, just in case, right? If you, and just make sure you size accordingly. Don't go too big, right? Because if you do get stopped out, don't let it hurt you, right? But if it continues to go, that's why options are good here, because you're never going to lose full premium on it if it just goes here. But if it goes down, you can make some pretty good money. You could take this out, this out, this out, this out. See how those targets work? You just look to see what the next piece of the bar it could take out, right? And then continue. So anyway, that was AMD. I am gonna look at it for the long side, just because it was relatively constructive. There wasn't a big gap down here like all the other NASDAQ stocks, but there is a gap here. And so if it breaks that 60 to the upside and the market's looking good, you got this 5 MA curling, which could potentially cross the 10, give it some push to get, to fill this gap right here. So I'm a little more interested in this to the long side, as opposed to every other FANG stocks, which I posted on Twitter. Everything's got a gap below, to fill. I think that has a higher propensity of filling that first. NEM, this was a, mining stock, but it did put in an inside week last week. It looked pretty strong off the dailies, almost too strong. But anyway, we'll see. The 5 did cross over the 10 MA, so it's a golden cross there. That's very bullish, right? You got, look at that. Let's see, inside day, failed to the downside, formed a hammer, right? Perfect reversal bar, and look what it did the next day. Gapped up huge, continue to go, continue to go. That was the trade right there after that inside day. And I remember seeing this on an inside day list, but I don't really I've traded this one before, and it is a good stock to trade. It's very liquid, and the spreads are very thin, so that's nice. So that right there would have been and some volume too on that day. That would have been a great one to go long overnight on, and then wake up to a nice gap up and continuation. But it still looks pretty constructive here, right? There's a lot of consolidation here, hence the inside week. And look, these levels here at the top of this, these correspond, to could be a nice break, right, to take out this 33.25. So, it's just a little, it's not a FANG stock or a big momentum stock, but it could move, right? And it closed, look at that, closed with a nice hammer on volume too. So that's really nice. I'm at another alert there. So that I'm looking at to the long side tomorrow. Obviously, it could do anything. If it breaks out to the downside, it can continue and take those out, but I'm leaning bullish on that one. Docu, it's always good to go through your weeklies once a week ends. Docu put an inside hammer to close. So this stock's a little tricky. They put a hammer here. I was looking to go long, and it did have a good push, and then came back further, never took out that tail. Right, went back in hammer here, so it might get some more upside potential too if the market's strong. If all the futures are pointing up and everything. Could at least try to retest those highs right there. So that was 48.30. That's 6 points from there. So that looks like some potential on Docu. Now it does get spready, right? So don't go crazy on this one. And the options are pretty spready too, as I recall. Yeah, 15 cents, 10 cents spread. I mean, it's not beautiful, but it's got some open interest and had some volume the other day, so there could be some potential on this guy. So that's Docu, and then one more. I think it's an oil one. NOC. No, it's not Northrop Grumman. Sorry, I think it's something else. I like how I put a weekly bottoming tail in. Plus, there was a write up in Barron's too this weekend about defense stocks, not defensive stocks, but actual contractors of the Department of Defense. So I like how I think they had a fine. I heard some news come in. I think they had a fine that came in, but it was only like a couple million. Obviously that is not good, but it didn't really move on that news, and it put in a nice bottoming tail on the week. So that's got some potential too, some upside potential. No real gaps to fill or anything like that. So we'll see on that one. Just one to watch. I've traded this one before. It's expensive, but and options are kind of goofy. But it's definitely one to watch. I mean, like 40-cent spreads. Makes it a little tough one to trade, but I mean, it could regain some ground. So keep an eye on it. On the short side, we talked about Google through Twitter. Google, I think, is the weakest looking of all the FANG stocks, and Netflix are both really weak. And Apple, I mean, they just had a miss on earnings. So Apple, what do we look at after the day after earnings? We look at the 30-minute orb, right? So gap down, tried to break this resistance on Friday. I was really thinking it would, and it didn't. But I still like how this 200-day right here is right in this open gap, right? So it seems like there's a good shot at that. So watch the 30-minute ORB on this one on Monday to see how it acts. Let it, there's going to be some craziness in the open, because we had, when Apple's down, things go down. And so, because it's on every, all the three major indexes, right? It's a part of the S&P, it's a part of the NASDAQ, and it's part of the Dow. So if Apple gets hurt, the market, can get hurt. Netflix I showed on Twitter, and Pfizer was the other one too that on the scans pulled up a inside week, right? And it looks like the 5 is kind of starting to point down, so you could get a golden, 5 over MA cross here. It's showing a weekly downtrend, so there's some potential there to the downside. And look, it's got lots of support right here, right where that bottom of that week is. So if it breaks that to the downside, we could take out this pivot here at 40.87, and then it looks like it could go 39. I mean, we'll see. But 200 days right there at 38.46. So we'll see on Pfizer. But yeah, back to Apple real quick. I just wanted to talk about the theme of today, which is basically why the gap up on Friday was bearish to me, right? as you know, I mean, one of the things I like to trade is if we gap up, I look to reclaim the range of the previous day, especially if there's no real, nothing really going on, at least to test the top range of the previous day. So there's some change to be made there. But the real thing that was interesting is that on Friday, everything was gapping up, right? All the futures were gapping, were green, VIX was red. And so, on China tariff talk and all that, and I just didn't buy it, right? Because this tariff stuff has been, back and forth for so long. I mean, things will bounce and move on it. Obviously, the futures moved on it, all that stuff. But I just think it's such old news that, the market has to have, tariffs going through and sanctions going through, all being priced in, for the most part. So I thought it was an over reaction to that. And but what made me think that? What was the main catalyst? What was the main thing that made me think that? Is that Apple was gapping down on earnings, right? And the earnings weren't that bad, but they're basically saying we're not going to report iPhone and iPad sales anymore, which is their biggest thing. So, which basically kind of means like they're trying to hide something, right? And so that's pretty negative on the market. And the thing that was really interesting is that while everything was up, right, even though Apple's earnings weren't bad, it wasn't like Facebook where it had kind of started to go up, even though it's it had some subscriber loss or whatever the case was. It had come back up, and Apple didn't do that. Everything else was up except for King Apple, right? And so that led me to believe that this thing was still pretty heavy, and then eventually the market was going to come back in. Does that make sense? So now if Apple would do what Facebook did, then my whole sentiment would have changed. I would have been like, this might be interesting. I'll watch maybe Apple to go up. So, people to, because if it ended up kind of just filling that. Let's go to the. This is what it looked like, right? So it went down, it kind of came up a little bit, right? And then, kind of was still weak while everything else was up. And if you go to Facebook, what it did after earnings, now obviously it faded the next day. Let me go back to, let me go with 30s, and then let's put a couple more days on there. How many days ago was the earnings on that? So here, right? So Facebook, Apple didn't do what Facebook did, right? Facebook, had good earnings. Or, Apple had, record earnings, right? But, just missed on a couple things, and so did Facebook. And so it was like up and down and up and down and up and down. Anyway, it ended up kind of gapping up the next day, right? And so, if Apple did this, then yeah, I would have looked, hey, maybe fade it, whatever the case was, but it didn't. It was down. And so, and the market was up. And so it was that point, and Apple carries so much weight, and I figured it would just eventually pull it down. And I tweeted that a couple times and everything. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that. It's like, I like when things gap up because it gives a chance to gap down. And I like when things gap down because it gives it a chance to fill the range, to retest, right, for price discovery, to retest at least some of the ranges of the prior day. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, what's going up with that? And Facebook, which is going to be on the video cover of today, was the perfect one, really, I think, because I like trading Facebook because the options are easy to do. And you probably could have done, the Qs, things like that. But it was, you look for these inside days, right? And so it ended up opening. I remember like seeing it was like gapping up here. And then by the time like I had even a chance to look, I had to go to a meeting that morning, so I couldn't trade it. But it opened here, and then a lot of things just started ripping, right, at the open. And so that's just classic, right? And so it comes up here, and then the perfect short is when it started coming back in the range here at 152.75. And then you could have, especially if you use next week options, the following, because it was Friday, you don't want to get the theta burn of the same day, but if you use the following week options, I mean, I'm sure you could have made just, at least double your money on that, on options, just as that came back in. And then of course the break at the end of the day, then it was playing games, like Facebook and Apple and all these guys like to do. They never break the first, second, sometimes third, sometimes fourth time, and that's a strategy too. And when it fails to break, you can take it long. You could have done that with Facebook. You did it with Apple. I'm sorry, it bounced a point. You could have taken it back down. But anyway, the idea was, the short was what it was up here. It was such a fake move up. You could just tell, and then you short it back into the range. So that was basically it. Let's see how Google looked real quick. Google's just been the worst after it's had its news of not being able to, not being able to be appropriate with their employees. But that was an inside day too. This one, and I wanted to show Microsoft too, because that was another great one. Yeah, I mean, Google couldn't even break up to the upside. So, I mean, that was like, and then it really ended up, down below the inside day. So this was good. And I think this one's going to fill the gap sooner than later. And then, and Microsoft, last one we'll look at. And then we'll go questions and chart requests. And I'll go a little bit long, but it's been a long weekend. So this was great. I like this one too. Because it gave a good opportunity, right? Inside day, and Microsoft's really easy to trade too. I mean, the spreads are usually a penny wide or 2 pennies wide. It's shown higher here, but it's usually really, really good spreads. And anyway, look at this. So when inside day, right? Remember how Facebook kind of went above it? Look at this, perfect. The high of this, 107.32. The high of Friday, 107.32. So it touched it, the exact same penny. You could have shorted it right there as it started coming back in, and just put your stop right 1 penny above it. You never got stopped out. And this thing went a full range of 2.34 points, right? And on options, that's just phenomenal. I mean, so if you did this week's, right, because you do the next week's on Fridays, it went from, anyway, just figure it hit the low. You're going to do 105s, say. Let's just look at how those looked on the options. 105s. Just to show you, yeah, you would have doubled your money, probably pretty close to it. So around $1 to $2 on that one, just on the 105s. So that's pretty solid, just in terms of the mathematics and the geometry of the whole thing. But anyway, those are those. Appreciate everybody for joining in. I definitely appreciate getting all the new subscribers this weekend. I'm trying to get to 100 if I'm not there already, but I know we're getting close. Because once I can, when I post, I can change my Twitter link to actually something sensible instead of all the nonsense gobbledygook that they give you. You have to have 100 subscribers and be doing it for more than a month. So as soon as I get to 100, I can change my my YouTube name to make it easier for people to either remember or just look at and be able to click on it or search for it. So I appreciate everybody for subscribing. So at this point, tomorrow's Monday. Anything could happen. Futures are, still in the red, and VIX is green. So it's looking like we'll probably gap down, but you never know what's going to change overnight. We could be green in the morning. So I've kind of gone over the whole game plan, and I'm going to post that to Twitter in a little bit. So if anybody has any questions or chart requests, I'm happy to pull anything up if you want me to profile anything. Or if you have any just questions about strategies, general strategies, or any of the techniques I use. On Twitter, I added to the rules section. I got awesome requests this weekend just to maybe elaborate on a little more. So I put more of a description of what I look for when I trade, especially because I traded full time for a while, and I did well. I was green and all that, but it wasn't enough to pay. Well, it could pay bills, but it wasn't enough to convince my wife to keep doing it. So from work though, I still look at it's easier to look at the 60s, and I prefer to trade the 60s anyway intraday because it takes away a lot of the noise. And so I put a lot of those rules up there, and so you can see what I look for. So my favorite times of the day to look, if I have time, is 11:30. Just to see what sets up on the 60s, and if things are looking good, go ahead and grab an entry. Obviously, the open, I use the 60 anchors, right? So here, Microsoft went inside 60, so I'll look on Monday morning, for something like this. If we open here, I might trade it the range of this. So 53 cent risk, I would put a stop down here if it broke to the upside here, and then try to use that morning momentum to grab some points off of that. Or a fail to the downside here under the VWAP, and I would short that with a stop at the top of this. So, and it's inside, and you can use, if less risk, you put less risk on because it's higher range. You can put your stops here or here, right? Just for depending on which direction you're going. So I added that stuff to it. So hopefully that helps anybody who wonders the rules that I have posted. So, but yeah, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to post if you have any chart requests. You know, again, if you just post a stock ticker, I'll pull it up and just kind of look at how I see it on the monthly, the weekly, the daily, and then the hourly, and just kind of give an idea of how I might trade it if it because I get a lot of ideas from you guys too. So, oh, what's up, YOLO? Okay, so Fit and Texan. Oh, nice. Okay, great find. Let's see. So Fit has been interesting, right? So that gapped up the other day on earnings, and so yeah, it looks really strong when you look at it, right? So that's inside day, right? So a break here would be good. Let me put that there. Appreciate your calling that one out. Oh yeah, cup and handle, megaphone. Yeah, so it's got some potential there. Break, yeah, so just a breakout on that one. Yeah, that looks really good. Let's see how it closes on the hourlies. You can trade this at the open off of this. Yeah, see, look at that. So it did a hammer, and then it did an inverse hammer, and then another sort of hammer here over the VWAP. So I would definitely look to, go along there potentially with a stop, under the VWAP, maybe under this guy right there, just to be safe. So I'll put a 60 there, and then you said it was inside week too. No, yeah, it was up on there. I think texting you were talking about. Yeah, so that looks good. So let's just take a look here real quick on the 15-minute. Look what happened. This is the 15-minute orb, right? The opening range breakout. If you just traded this, and I think I posted on Twitter, I think you might have, said you traded, but that 15-minute orb right there, all you had to do is go long over that, and that would have been good. That was 580, and it hit all the way up to 611, right? So 30 cents on a $6 stock is pretty good, right? So, so that would have been a good trade. And then the next day, you look at the 30s, right, and see how that looks. Next day, you trade the 30s. 15-minute orb, right? So there's your opening range breakout. Open your range, and it breaks out here. And you could have gone long 606, and it went all the way up to 620. So another 20 cents you could have made on that. So at this point, after those first 2 days are done, I would look for an hourly, something on the 60s that makes sense to trade. You know how I like to do it. So if you see a green hammer over the VWAP or an inside 60, go that, or a break right here, because I mean, look, it's got a lot of ways to go. I mean, you could take out this pivot, all the way up to 779. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But again, look at your futures, see which way they're going, and just be careful on breakouts, because sometimes they don't always work the first time. So don't go all in on it, right? Just test it out and give yourself a reasonable stop. Where it ain't gonna hurt you either way. Let's take a look at Texan. Let's see. I know it had earnings recently. Let's see how it did. Yeah, it actually had pretty good earnings, but gap down. They must have gave like some bad guidance or something like that. This gave you a 180 day here though, so it was up the one day and then straight down the next day. So be careful with that. It did hold this 10 5 MA area, so it could try to come back in. But let's see. Yeah, the month obviously, yeah, it's still in this range here. So but it's green on the month. Open at 93, close at 95. So you're green on the week. Inside week, like you said. So let's put an alert there if it breaks the upside. Good catch on that. 60. And then of course the downside has got the 200 MA on the weekly. I'll just put a there. Nice one. And then let's see. Yeah, so just keep an eye here. High 799. Yeah, nice. That's what always gets me when it doesn't look like an inside day there. Yeah, but inside day, nice catch, YOLO. So if the inside week takes it up, then it could trigger the inside day up, which gives it some oomph, right? And then the inside day down, same thing. So yeah, good one to catch there. Let's see how the 60s looked again. That's why I put these alerts on here, because when you don't have multiple screens and you're just on your phone, you see these alerts come up and you can check it out, see what's going on. Yep, there you go, nice. And inside 60 right there. So a good one to watch at the open too, just to see how it behaves. And the range is not too much, 64 cents. So the top of it's over the VWAP, and the bottom of it's under the VWAP. So it gives you a perfect kind of area to gauge. So you just see how price acts around there. You don't have to trade these things too if you guys aren't experienced with it. Just watch these 60 anchors for the next day and how they trade, right? Because price is going to move fast, right? No matter which one you look at the open, right? But this still just show you so you can get used to it. If you watch these things, then you could trade the 60s later. They don't go as fast. You can watch and just see how they trade. And like, you know, I'm going to say if it gaps down here, comes up, it might not, you know, claim half the range, come back down. That's a good chance to short it right there. It might come up and just come screaming through. You might want to go long over the VWAP and put a, you know, a stop here, you know, or just a break to the upside. And then, you know, you've got a target here. And then my next target would be 50% of this bar, you know, so right about here, but that would trigger your week, right? And then, you know, keep going. Or, I'm sorry, your day and your week, which is pretty awesome. So good one there on Texan Yellow. And Javier, what's going on? Yep, absolutely. And can take ice inside hammer on daily short on daily chart. Yep. Yep. Oh yeah, it does look good. Nice hammer on the 60. Yeah, so it went. It closed. Nice big bar here. Just kind of take out all this nonsense. Then it went inside 60, right? Then you could have traded that to the upside here at the end of the day. But this is a nice momentum 60 right here, right? So you don't want to jump in necessarily right at the open if you want to see how it handles this at the open tomorrow, right? Now this is one I don't really trade much, but if you're used to trading and you're familiar with it, you know, that's cool. Yep, and then nice inside day, right, which is here. So that break there would be 76.92. Oh, I'm gonna put an order on this just to watch. So that's basically your high of the day right there. So 60 in day. So that could be good. If you know, if we gap down, let's say we gap down, that would be ideal. Then you would want to just trade that break to the upside, right? Because the next target there is 77.74. So almost a point you could try to make off of that one. And yeah, so 41 cents to make a point. Good 1 to 2 risk reward for a day trade. Break to the upside, like you said, on the daily, and yep, had good earnings. Put an outside, you know, green outside week last week, which is solid. And yeah, the monthly looks at just walks its way up those MAs. So this is a you know, sweet looking. Is this a trucker company? You guys know you can just, if you don't know anything about a company, you should go trade, analyze. Oh, regulated exchanges. Sorry, clearing houses. Gotcha. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it's been. So it's just been walking its way up here. So you know, on the monthly. So and it tagged the 5 MA you know, this month already and came back up. So yeah. So that's a good stock too. What's up, Praveen? Okay, let's look at CXW. No, don't think I've ever traded this one before, but let's just go ahead. You know how I look at it. I go to the monthly, just see what the kind of the macro side is looking like. Remember, we're only 4 days into the month, so this is the month. It really doesn't give you that much, but let's see what it did. You know, it had a hammer previously, failed, did that to the downside, then had continuation down. Now it's kind of holding this monthly 10 MA. So let's see if that stays constructive. It's got earnings coming up, right? So tomorrow, after the close. So again, I don't trade into earnings, but you know, it's just too much of a gamble for me. But yeah, this one gets some, you know, good weekly volume. Let's see. Yeah, but I put in a nice reversal hammer, well, almost a full hammer on Friday, and it looks like it's right at the 200 day. So it's at this perfect point of indecision, right into earnings. So really tough to see if maybe you can get a little earnings run tomorrow on it. See if you can break that hammer up and get a little bit of an earnings run. But again, I don't trade into earnings, so just be careful with that. But it did put in a inside 60 here at the close over the VWAP. So definitely worth watching to see how it handles that at the open. You know, if it breaks to the upside, you might get some movement here into earnings. So, but it could, you know, go down, you know, either way, or just chop around until earnings decision comes out. So, Cody. Cody had an inside month, prior inside month. Look at that. Had an inside month here, failed to the downside. Then put inside month here, failed to the downside, right? And now it's kind of, we'll see what it does here. If it cooks just at kind of this inside month range, again, this has earnings coming up this week too, but let's see what it did last week. Put in a pretty solid green reversal bar here. I like how it's kind of the trend has changed. You see how the green DI plus, the green DI plus cross over the DI minus here, and your ADX is still up. That means it's trending. So, so we'll see. You got a couple days to see how that plays out. Maybe you'll get an earnings run. Maybe it'll win on earnings. I don't know. It's always a gamble into earnings, so that's why I don't trade it. But yeah, that does look interesting. It looks pretty constructive. So it's just been stepping up. Like you said, it's kind of in the 5, just golden crossed over the 10 MA. So there's some. I mean, it looks very bullish, right? So, but earnings could be horrible, right? But I like how it did a double inside 60 at the close. So this is definitely one to use at the open as an anchor, right? And see how this trades at the open, right? So if if you gap down, you trade it as a break to the upside of here with a stop here, or all the way down the mother bar. But again, you're risking a lot more by putting your stops here and here, right? So, but it is only a 3-cent bar, so I mean, it doesn't take much to take that out. So you don't want to put too much risk on that. But you put a little less risk on and put your stop right here, and then see if it takes it to the upside. But again, I don't trade into earnings on those, but nice stuff, Praveen. Is it blurry? I think it's just, I'm sorry guys, I don't know why that is. I guess it's maybe just my quality, maybe my internet speed or something like that. So, but you get what you pay for, right? But yeah, it's actually kind of coming through clear right now. So hopefully it's I think sometimes it starts blurry and then gets less blurry. I could probably do something to look at some settings on the broadcaster and see if I can do something to clear it up a little bit. So apologize for the blurriness, but hopefully it's the ideas that matter. So anything else, guys? I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, this is I do this every market night, and okay, cool, that's awesome. Oh, hey, what's up, Just Money? On Twitter, if your 60 values intraday or refresh continuously, only the previous hour price action, you're like, oh, sorry, I thought I answered it. Sorry, Just Money. Somebody asked me that the other day. Yeah, so I'm really sorry if I didn't answer that. Yeah, so I don't use the VWAP on the daily, and I'll show you why. I go to and I just use Thinkorswim or TradeStation, but on Thinkorswim. If I'll show you what it looks like. This is why I don't use it. Right? I mean, because it's just in the middle of everything, right? I mean, it's like it doesn't really help me in trading. It's like it's always in the middle of everything, so it's hard for me to trade off, on an intraday basis. So I don't use it on the daily. But I do use the 60, and the 60 is just works great intraday. So I mean, it's just I don't know exactly how, like you said, like if it's a rolling. I thought I answered. I don't know if I answered this for you. I know I answered it the other day. I apologize if I didn't answer it. But yeah. So intraday, it's going to look like this, right? Now at the open, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because depending on if you're looking at pre-market or aftermarket, it's going to use some of that volume, and it'll adjust it. But it's it's pretty sensible once you're using it on the 60s here, what it looks like. So here, just on this Cody, right? You've got this is the VWAP. It's whether it uses rolling or not, or the previous hour, I'm not sure, but I just use it as kind of a guide, and you can use your MAs and all that stuff, but I just like how it averages volume in with it too. And then here, I would be, as long as this hammer, it's inside right here, this hammer stays over the VWAP, I would look to trade a break of those, right? Especially if it's good volume and good spreads and things like that. So, and it works effectively. It works effectively during the days. There was one. What was the one I had the other day? I think it was Twitter. There was a bunch I had the other day that were great. Roku, I think, was one. Yeah, if you just go back here to Thursday, I'll show you here. So inside 60, right? This is inside 60 bar right here. over the VWAP, right? You could trade a break of that, but this one was high 89, 90, okay? So this one here gave you a nice momentum hammer, right, over the 60, over the VWAP, right? So in general, your trend is up on the shorter time frame, right? You can, that's kind of like your determining factor, right? So your trend is up here, and then you just trade a break of this here to the upside with a stop right here, and then, I mean, it went, what was that? 56.90 all the way up to, you know, 58.30. So $1.50, you know, gain just in, you know, 2 hours, right? And then, you know, once it breaks and you get some movement, just go ahead and move your stop up and just, you know, let the trade, you know, work for you, and then, you know, go look for something else. You know, so you've already green. You know, don't lose money. That's, you know, these are just intraday strategies, right? They're not like long term. You know, I'm trying to make, you know, 20, 30 points on Roku or something like that. You know, I'm trying to, you know, maybe get a little move on it so I can make, you know, a half a point or something like that on, you know, a couple hundred shares. You know, so I can make 100, 200 bucks and just, you know, have a nice lunch break, right? So, you know, stuff like that. So, but it just is really effective. So I don't really get into the technicals of the VWAP too much. I just know institutions like it. And every time I've noticed I've had the most success. If I try to go long something that was under the VWAP, it tended to fail more often than not. But if I went long on something over the VWAP, I tend to, you know, be a little more successful. And same the other way around, right? So like, so here was like a shooting star or a shooter or inverse hammer under the VWAP, right, at the time. And then you could have, you know, obviously you go green, boom, you move your stop up so you don't lose money. And then, you know, that would have been good for 58 cents, you know, for 40 cents right there. I mean, not huge. And I know Roku's share, you know, spreads can be 10 cents and all that stuff. So you got to know the stock that you're trading, you know, to how you do it. But, you know, once you're profitable, move your stop to profit and then move on, you know, to the next one, look for a better step. And if it ends up keep working, then just trim and trail, you know, bank some profit and keep going. So hopefully that helps. I'm sorry if I didn't answer on Twitter. I know I answered that question the other day, and I apologize if I didn't see that. So I try to do my best to answer any questions I get through the feed. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking for an interesting day tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, futures are down. So, you know, I'm pretty bearish on a lot of these things in general. I think Apple needs to touch its 200 day, but it doesn't mean it has to. I think Google and Netflix are looking, you know, pretty bearish. Right, but there's some, you know, I mean, NVIDIA has got earnings coming up, and I think on that weekly chart, you know, this hammer could be pretty strong. But it's possible, like I said, just looking at some other analyses I did, you know, it looks like it might just want to go ahead and, you know, what was it? The gap was there at 203.40, and below was, yeah, so it didn't quite fill. I mean, it might just come down, fill its gap, and then rip, you know, because it's got earnings coming up on the 15th, so next week. So we'll see. This will be an interesting one, definitely, to keep an eye on it. It's got a gap up here too, so a lot of stuff, good stuff to look at. Yeah, I can see even on my screen right here that it's coming through blurry. I don't know what to do or how to control that, but maybe I'll like just in general reduce the frame rate or something like that. But anyway, guys, it's getting a little late, so I'll post the game plan up, all the stuff that we talked about, and I hope everybody has a great night. And thanks for watching and all your awesome questions. And I will see you on Twitter tomorrow. Have a great trading day. Yeah, I just use the default VWAP, man, and just use it on the 60 chart. I'm not. It's really price is the main thing I look at, right? So just to see what the candlesticks are telling me, and then I just trade off of the breaks of those candlesticks, right? So I look for the most powerful candlestick setup, and like I said, yeah, the VWAP is just sort of like a guide. I just found that if it's over it, I got a. Oh, why is that doing that? Yeah, if it's over it, I've got a better shot, you know, probability-wise, of a long working, and if it's under it, I got a better. I've just noticed that, you know, because if I try to go long here, right, inside bar, if it even tried to break the upside, a lot of times, because when you look at the VWAP, you see a lot of it just bangs on it and bounces off of it, or if it's below it, it goes towards it, right? So it's but I've tried trading that way. Like, oh, I'll just trade and short the VWAP. Well, sometimes it goes over it and goes under it. So I just thought in general, if I see a strong candlestick above or below it, that'll determine whether I go long. And I just made that one of my rules, and it just helps me eliminate some nonsense trades that I used to do. So, so that's basically it. Anyway, guys, appreciate you. Have a good night, and I'll post anything I see tomorrow, to Twitter. Hopefully, it'll help you, and and I'll try to take some trades too, and let you know if I'm taking a trade. So, have a great night, and I will talk to you tomorrow.